The Chicago Bulls split another weekend, show some good, show a lot of bad. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And one of the questions a lot of Bulls fans are asking themselves after his game on Saturday is Miles Buzelis ready to break out for the Bulls? We're going to talk about it all and more on today's Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily Chicago Bulls podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Bulls, man. Member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls Central and Chicago Bears Central YouTube pages and podcasts. And today's episode is sponsored by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Let's start this off by talking about the Bulls weekend. They won a game against the Atlanta Hawks. They lost a game against the Memphis Grizzlies. And this was another kind of set of games that perfectly, encapsulates just who the Chicago Bulls are this season. This game against the Atlanta Hawks, while the Bulls did end up winning by 14 points, they controlled throughout most of this game. The Atlanta Hawks did get in the game briefly for a second, but when you really look at this game, the fact that we had 7 players scoring in double digits, right? All 5 of the starters in double digits in this game. This is a game where we started Ayo Dosunmu at the power forward position, and he scored 20 points. We had 26 from Zach LaVine, 20 from Kobe White, 18 from Vooch, 18 from Josh Giddey. We also had 13 points from Jalen Smith, 12 from Dalen Terry coming off the bench. And this was one of the games where the Bulls offense caught fire early, and you really saw how when this offense is playing with confidence, how much of a dangerous offense the Chicago Bulls really can be at times, right? And that's really what has so far through this first month of the season, what really has been the prevailing theme coming from this team is that we're really good offensively. Right now, not great. We're not the best team offensively in the league, but we're top 10 in field goals, attempted and percentage. We're top 5 in three-pointers, attempted and percentage. We're having efficiency. We're the number 1 pace team in the league. Turnovers kill us, right? We're averaging 16 turnovers per game. Points in the paint kill us. There's another thing in this game. But overall, this is a game that reminds you of just when the Bulls offense is going. These were at the time the two of the fastest paced offenses in the league. Is that when the Bulls are playing against a team like this, they're probably going to come out on the winning side. The Atlanta Hawks and the Chicago Bulls are very similar teams. They're right neck and neck in offense and defensive statistics on the year. They're very similar teams. It's like looking at a mirrored version of yourself in a lot of ways. And so then you flip this to the game against Memphis, and while the Memphis Grizzlies are another fast-paced team, I think they're the second fastest-paced team in the league, this is where a lot of the Bulls' deficiencies shined loudly in this game. Our inability to stop points in the paint. Another game of over 60 points in the paint against the Memphis Grizzlies. Another game where Scottie Pippen Jr., listen, if he keeps playing, if he played against Kobe White 82 games a year, he'd be the second best player in the league. He completely murdered Kobe White. I'm talking about it was a crap show when it came to Kobe White in the defense here. 64 points in the paint against the Memphis Grizzlies. And this was the game that showed, like I said, a lot of the Bulls' deficiencies. And that's a thing that hurts the Bulls. Now, we didn't allow 20 points off turnovers, thank God. 16 points off turnovers. But we got completely killed in the second half of this game. When you look at the first half versus the second half shooting-wise for the Bulls, right? And this is another good example of why when the Bulls aren't really playing an efficient offense, how they play, their level of play is not really sustainable. First half of the game, 47% from the field, 38% from three-point range. You flip that to the second half of this game. While we shot a better percentage at 50% from 3, we allowed 50% for the Memphis Grizzlies. We allowed them to shoot 64% overall from the field. The defense in this game was god-awful, and it got worse as the game went on. And that's the thing that's going to be really difficult for this Bulls team to sustain wins. A lot of people right now are making a lot out of the Chicago Bulls, technically being, I think, what was it, 10th seed via standings. But when you look at the differential, we're the second worst team. Now the third worst team in the Eastern Conference with point differential, -6.5 point differential. When you put that in perspective, that's a 30 win. That's a sub 30 win pace. When you look at the two teams last year that had the exact same point differential as the Chicago Bulls, you had the San Antonio Spurs that had 22 wins. And then you have the Toronto Raptors that had 25 wins last season. The fact is that the Bulls right now are benefiting from the fact that the Eastern Conference is still finding its footing. There's some teams off to slow starts. There's injuries. There's things like that. But the Bulls are not the type of team right now that you can expect by any honest stretch of the imagination to be a team that's going to actually compete to be in the Eastern Conference. Yes, the Bulls have a 30% chance to make the playoffs right now. That's not going to maintain with the way that they're playing. And while the offense is great, it's really good to see a Chicago Bulls offense that is actually modernized. It's great to see that. The defense has fallen in the dark ages. Like this is the worst Chicago Bulls defense of the last 8 years. And you know how bad some of those teams under Jim Boylan were defensively. This is a terrible defensive team. And while the Bulls right now are efficient offensively and they're flashy offensively and all those things are great, it makes for a fun season. It makes it for a fun discussion. The offense ain't going to be enough. It's just simply not going to be enough for this team to realistically have any kind of sustained success. It's going to be that fledgling success, right? Fleeting success is the word I'm looking for. It's going to be some of that. We're going to look really good in some games, are the Chicago Bulls. Really, really good. But then there are going to be some games where, despite how good our offense looks or not, it's going to be such a hard task for this Bulls team to just win basketball games. It just is what it is. It's a struggle right now. Football, it's interesting to see the per 36 numbers for it's not. 36 per 36 is not a good stat to use for players that don't play a lot of minutes. It's just not, because when you're averaging like 14 minutes per game, a per 36 is going to be so disproportionately favorable to that player because you're increasing them so much more. Per 36 is just not a good stat overall, but it's a worse stat to use for players that don't play a lot of minutes. Per 36 is really good when you have a player at like 28, 29 minutes, because then it's not really this large gap between the per 36 and what they're actually performing. Per 36 numbers are terrible to use for a player that's not playing a lot of minutes. Rob says Vooch has been great on offense this year, but his defense is at the center position is one of the worst defensive ratings in the center position, where that's where defensive rating isn't all be all. You got to break that down. Nikola Vucevic is actually right in the middle of the pack of on-ball defense. That's not where Nikola Vucevic gets murdered at. On ball, Vooch has been a solid defender. Where he's failed at is on pick and roll defense, which in a very pick and roll heavy league, it's going to be exposed. And then on drives, big men that drive from the elbow drive to the lane, that's where Vooch suffers at. But he's actually really solid. And that's why every statistic, you got to understand how to read it with other statistics to really get a full picture. Defensive rating isn't an end-all, be-all that people try to make it, because your defensive rating can be so drastically affected by runs other teams go on as well. But when you break that down and go further into detail on that, you'll see that the places where Vooch gets killed at really are like Vooch is. This is the way to kind of use it as a high level for Vooch. If this was like the 90s, early 2000s, where big men actually stayed in the paint more and there was more back to the basket centers, Vooch would actually be a plus defender in that era. Now, in this era, in the modern day era, where it's so many pick and rolls, so many versatile and mobile bigs, Vooch is going to get exposed. So that's just a kind of way to break it down. You gotta get a little bit deeper in the weeds there analytically, but a lot of people don't have time for that. So, but yeah. Pick and roll defense is egregious. The Vooch's pick and roll defense is actually terrible. It's actually one of the worst in the, like, Vooch at pick and roll is like it's barbecue chicken. Like, Vooch in the pick and roll defense is just not going to ever be anything that actually is beneficial for your team. And with how many, and that's why you see, and it's not just Vooch either. Just Giddey, not a good pick and roll defender. Kobe White, he's gotten better, but still not really a good pick and roll defender. This is Zach LaVine's best defensive season overall, but historically, he's not a good pick and roll defender. We just aren't a good pick and roll defense team. And so in those areas, when you don't have the good perimeter defense with pick and rolls, and you already have a big that's bad in pick and roll defense, it's just going to get exposed even more. It's terrible to look at in that way. Terrible to look at. Jalen Smith's defensive rating is better than Vooch. Same game, if Vooch's offense is not there, I'd play Smith. No, again, this is why defensive rating is the only thing, because Jalen Smith is better. Again, and the their weaknesses and strengths are different. Because Jalen Smith is a better weak side defender. He's a better help defender. But on ball defense, Jalen Smith is considerably worse as an on ball defender than Nikola Vucevic. Considerably worse. I'm talking about like he's as bad as an on ball defender as Vooch is a pick and roll defender. So it's not really that good. Again, Rob, and I've told you this before, this is where you got to stop trying to be ahead of stuff. You got to look at everything, Rob. All right, with that said, man, next up we're going to talk about the title topic in this one. Is Miles Buzelis ready to break out for the Chicago Bulls? We're going to talk about that. But first, we got to get into a message from Skims. This one is for the fellas. If you're like most guys, you probably haven't put much thought into upgrading your underwear in a while. But with Skims launching their men's line, it's time to rethink what comfort and support actually feel like. Skims is known for quality and fit, and now they're bringing the same attention to men's underwear. Imagine boxer briefs that stay in place, briefs that breathe, and fabrics that feel like they're made just for you. Skims has a range of options, whether you're looking for classic cotton boxer briefs that won't ride up, stretch boxer briefs that move with you all day long. These aren't your usual store-bought packs. Skims has tailored each style to keep its shape and delivered comfort that lasts. These briefs are perfect for anyone who wants their underwear to stay where it belongs without sacrificing comfort. Shop Skims Men's at skims.com/lockedon. That's skims.com/lockedon. All right, now that I'm done slinging underwear to y'all, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Bulls. With that said, man, a lot of people are excited about the game that Miles Buzelis had Saturday against the Memphis Grizzlies. And I want to be clear, it was a mixed bag, right? But it was a mixed bag to where you can see how some of those things could start building off for Miles. Miles in the first half of this game, let's just look at the first half. Right under 16 minutes, 15 and a half minutes basically. He went 6 of 10 from the field, 2 of 3 from three-point range. He had 3 rebounds and 1 block and 14 points. 14 points for Miles Buzelis, and he did all of that in under 16 minutes. Now, where I said that it was a mixed bag, that's what gets into the second half of this game. Second half for Miles Buzelis, he played 13 and a half minutes. He was 0 of 3 from the field, 0 of 2 from three-point range. He had 1 assist in the game, 1 turnover, 1 block shot, and 1 personal foul as well. So it was a mixed bag. Now I know a lot of people are going to talk about it strictly glowingly, and I'm gonna err more on the side of positivity than not, but I am gonna err on the side of being real about what the performance was for Miles Buzelis. But you saw that in the first half of this game, how Miles and his energy and his shot blocking and just overall his activity could really help the Chicago Bulls. And one thing that we've consistently talked about with this team is how Billy Donovan just does not really allow Miles the chance to fail, right? And when you look at the other rookies in this rookie class, a lot of them that have had more minutes than Miles Buzelis, they're starting now to start playing some of their best basketball, right? We started off this season with no rookie in this draft class averaging double digits. Now we're getting to the point like Jared McCain's playing out of his mind, right? Risha Sher is starting to play much better also when it comes down to it. So there are things that are starting to improve for that. And like a lot of Bulls rookies in the past, not all, is that you're seeing that because there's such a short leash on our rookies that we don't really give them an opportunity to really work themselves out of it, right? So I think that is something to be said about that, right? When you look at this rookie class, not to say that anybody's playing better, but we started off with no players averaging double digits. Now we got 7 players in this rookie class averaging double-digit points per game. Jared McCain, Jalen Wells, Zachary Risha-Sher, Dalton Knecht, Zach Edey, Stephon Castle, Alexander Sarr. And all these players have played consistently. When you look at them, they're all averaging more than 20 minutes per game. Miles Buzelis isn't sniffing that. And the reason why this question exists is not because that the Chicago Bulls just need to be, playing rookies per se, but it comes down to this, is that the Bulls aren't winning anything this year. I want to be clear with that. The Bulls aren't winning anything this year. Nothing. We're not winning anything. We just talked about it. We have the point differential of a 20 to 30 win team. That's just what we have. That's just the realistic side of this. And so it's time to allow the Rook to go and grow through his mistakes. And I gotta commend Billy Donovan. As much as I'm gonna slight Billy Donovan, I gotta commend him where it's due. He even allowed Modest Buzelis to play after Modest Buzelis couldn't hit anything in the second half of the game. Now, some of those minutes were in garbage time. I want to be clear there. I think when you look at the fourth quarter of that game, half of those minutes in the second half were all after the game was well decided. But you got to give these players opportunities. And there's not a single player that's going to develop via not getting an opportunity to fail or succeed. And that's what you have to do. You got to stop. Billy Donovan has to stop being afraid to allow his rookies to fail or whatever's going in here, right? I may be attributing more thinking that Billy Donovan actually does to it because, again, I'm a thinker. We don't know if Billy Donovan really is not or yet, but that's a story for another day. But when I presented this question, is he ready to break out, right? I don't mean necessarily become the Bulls' best player or anything like that. I just mean getting to the point of allowing Modest to go through what he's going through. Like, he has to grow. Unleash the praying Montes. That's crazy. But yeah, like, Modest is ready, right? And he's a guy that has the mentality. That's the thing that I have, why I have so much faith in Modest Buzelis. It's not just the skill level. It's the fact that Modest has the mentality that if he does fail, he's going to do everything that he can the next game not to make that same mistake. He holds himself to the standard. Yeah, he's a bit cocky, but it comes from the fact of he's confident, but he also wants to be great. Modest Buzelis wants to be great. And that's not something that we've been able to say about a lot of rookies here. And so while Modest hasn't been getting consistent, we got Patrick Williams out, Torrey Craig, he's been back in, but he hasn't been playing. He didn't play too well in the last game. And the thing overall with this is that, to me, and this is my personal thought on this, is that if Modest has a game where he's just getting cooked defensively, if he has a game where he can't hit a shot to save his life, you got a veteran in Torrey Craig there. You got a vet there that could step in and at least at the very, he's going to be active and play some solid defense, things like that. So I just hope that there's a renewed kind of plan when it comes to using Modest Buzelis. I think that's the thing, because his teammates also believe in him. When Modest was getting into that groove, and I think he scored like 6 points in it was like 4 possessions or something like that, where he kept going to it. He was active. He caused a steal. Josh Giddey got him the ball after a block, things like that. He dunked. Like, when you have players like that, it's infectious. And this is a team right now that, while it's not like a tangible stat, right? It's not something you're going to go out and see on StatMuse or you're going to see on an advanced analytic. But one thing that this team is sorely missing is those energy play guys. We had that in Alex Caruso. We had that in Javonte Green. We had that at times. Modest Buzelis and Dalen Terry, while I'm not saying they're ready to be at the level of those players, they're ready to step into those roles. And Dalen, as much as we're talking about Modest Buzelis, we got to talk about Dalen Terry. Dalen Terry is gone from looking like a non-NBA player to being a player. He's taking his shots confidently. He's attacking the rim confidently. On defense, he's active. He's getting in passing lanes. He's taking on really good defensive assignments. You could tell that Dalen Terry is at the point now where it's like, no, I belong in this league. I'm not going to back down from nobody. It doesn't mean he's not going to make some mistakes. It doesn't mean that he's not going to lack skill against certain players or something like that. But these two players, in Dalen Terry and Modest Buzelis, these are two guys that I'm telling you right now, if you invest in them, their confidence is going to help push them as far as they possibly can go. And those are the type of guys that you want, especially, like I said, in the season, we're not playing for nothing. Despite what some people would tell you about the Bulls competing for a 6th seed or a playing spot, it doesn't matter. Development is the most important thing this season. And you have a 20-year-old and a 22-year-old that are ready, that are showing you, hey, give us more opportunity. And for that, we're going to reward you with growth. We're going to grow over the course of the season. And that's what you need to do. That's what you need to do, in my opinion. I know not everybody's going to agree with that, and that's fine, right? Everybody has the right to their own personal thought, and the biggest one who's not agreeing with that apparently is Billy Donovan, but it is time. Give him, not give him the keys as far as the whole team's built around him, but let Modest have his 6-8 minute stretches where it's just go out there and just give us tons of energy. Go out there and be active. Go out there and attack the rim. Go out there and move without the ball. You got the guards. All we got is guards. We got guards. They're going to find him. If he's open, he cuts to the rim, they're going to get him the ball. Just do that. That's all you got to do. Just do it. Billy Donovan is the one that needs to be convinced, man. But all right, we're going to take a brief break. We're going to get into a message from two of our sponsors. We're going to get into the first one. This one's from FanDuel. All right, man. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. I've been telling you guys for a while that this is a leg up that FanDuel is giving you that a lot of other betting sites do not, or sports books do not give you, to be able to have everything at your fingertips, to make an informed bet on the same page where you place your bets. It just streamlines the whole entire process for you. So just visit FanDuel.com today to join. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's $150 that FanDuel is giving you for just placing, and winning your first $5 bet. So make a smart bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Also got to get into a message from Gametime. Told you guys, Gametime is the place to get all your live ticketing events, whether sports games, theater, concerts, whatever. Take your lady out. Go out and do something. Don't stay in the house just because it's winter. And FanDuel helps you get out the house. Plus, they have a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Plus, if you toggle in the all-in pricing, this feature will show you the price up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Plus, you can get a panoramic view of your seats before you even purchase your seats. Plus, your purchase is covered by the best refund policy in the ticketing industry. Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference if you find tickets in the same seats and section for less. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code that's LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, Bulls fans, man, I want to thank you guys, as always, for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Bulls. We're here 5 days a week, as you guys already know, because you're the best and most supportive listenership in the entire Locked On podcast network. But with that said, man, I want to get into the last update that we have today before we get up out of here, and that's on Lonzo Ball and Patrick Williams. Now, we've gotten a lot of updates over the weekend when it comes to these guys, and some are more promising than others. When it comes to Lonzo Ball, Billy Donovan said that Zoe has had his best workout yet since he's in his recovery. He's still far off from a timeline being established for him yet. Lonzo has played 3 games so far for the Chicago Bulls. That's 3 games out of 18 games played. And unfortunately, I think he's missed 14 in a row. And unfortunately, it sucks. And, this is a player that was already with no injuries, had a ceiling of playing maybe 40, maybe 45 games. Now, because of the setback that this has happened, I'm sure that the Bulls are going to be even more kind of harsh on that minutes restriction, on the restriction of playing back-to-backs. They're going to be really protective over Lonzo. They've been very clear in the fact that this season for Lonzo isn't just about this season. It's about the longevity of his basketball career. So do not be surprised when you don't see him very much, right? Now, when you also flip that and look at Patrick Williams, Patrick Williams has said that it's not nearly as bad as what it was when he had the season-ending surgery. Says that it's more soreness. He did have scans on it. They still found some inflammation in his foot, and they can't make a determining factor on his return until the inflammation is completely down. Billy Donovan has already kind of set the expectation that both these guys are going to be out until after the Thanksgiving weekend. So we got a whole nother week of without Patrick Williams, without Lonzo Ball. And the injuries for the Chicago Bulls just are what they are at this point, right? I'm glad that they're playing more safe with their health than anything. I think that's a big part in this as well. But when it comes down to it, they're just not available, and they haven't been able to stay healthy. And, this is a concern for 2 players that when you look at it, Zoe's missed over 2 years, right? Patrick Williams has had 2 out of the last 4 years that end on season-ending surgeries. So, it's really unfortunate. that these guys just can't stay healthy and stay on the basketball court, especially for Patrick. Every time Patrick Williams starts playing a little bit more aggressive consistently, he gets hurt. He gets hurt. And you got to think that the mental part of that has to at least be part of why we just don't see a consistently aggressive Patrick Williams, at least in my opinion, right? That could be me trying to read the tea leaves too much. But I think that there is something to be said that every time you look at it, for example, his second year in the league, when he got his wrist injury, it was one of Patrick Williams' most aggressive plays. And he got his wrist broken, right? Every time Patrick Williams, December of last year, a great aggressive full month for Patrick Williams last year, was out shortly thereafter that. And you got to think about what that mentally does to a player, right? For a player in Patrick Williams that already isn't aggressive enough consistently, that already has earned the label of passive P, what has that mental part of it done to the game of Patrick Williams? I mean, listen, it gets no excuses. People get injured every day, B. You got to go out there and perform. But ultimately, like, it just, you got to question that. And while Lonzo, much credit and love to Lonzo that after 2.5 years out of basketball, he came out and was aggressive right away from the start, right? So I don't doubt that when he comes back, he's gonna be Lonzo Ball when he comes back. He's gonna be out there playing. He's gonna be out there competing. He doesn't seem like a player that's gonna go out there gingerly or anything like that. But listen, the Bulls need these guys. And regardless of whatever this season holds, win or loss wise, that you want your players out there to just see what everybody has. Lonzo is a free agent at the end of the season. Patrick Williams just signed a 5-year deal. So you want these guys out there to evaluate them and to figure things out. And when you hear things like the Bulls are more open to trading Patrick Williams than ever before, if he's not going to maintain and be healthy, it's going to be hard to move him, even if they do want to move him and even if they want to keep him, which I'm not saying I don't care what the Bulls do at this point, but if they want to keep him, you want him to be healthy out there on the court so you can get the developmental reps. So, we'll see what happens with that one, man. But yeah, I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys stay in tune with us. You can follow us at Locked On Bulls. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, lockedonbulls@gmail.com. If you want to follow me personally, you can do so at CEO Haize. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're a cheer team every single day. We're free and available in every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube, the Odyssey app, and Amazon Fire TV, so you can stay in tune with us in whatever way that you want to do. Love you guys. Go Bulls. See Red Jaw. And see you guys tomorrow. Peace.